Now, Mark Elliott's going to give us a little look at storm surge potential from Irma.
Surge is always the most dangerous and deadly component of any tropical system, and unfortunately in Irma, it has the potential to be so again. The forecast for surge across much of southeast Florida is getting towards the ridiculous size, right? And here's the scale over here. The orange colored 6 to 9 feet, the red 9+. And what that means is the amount of water above normally dry ground. Zooming in on a couple of cities here across southwest Florida, let's start out as we get real tight in so you can find where you are. Here's Naples, right? Look at how far inland we're talking about, that 9-foot+ category. This is a catastrophic situation and extremely dangerous for those that have not heeded those evacuation warnings. Going up the coast just a bit, remember, it is always the surge and the flooding that prompts those evacuations. You can hide from the wind, but when there's water like this over Fort Myers Beach, that is something you have to run from. And it's not just a beach thing. Straight up the rivers, that water gets pushed. So outside Fort Myers itself, Fort Myers isn't actually all the way onto the coastline, and yet there's going to be significant surge coming off the river. And Tampa Bay is an extremely vulnerable spot as well. And with this storm coming close, we now have a couple of areas to watch here. Not only outside St. Petersburg off of Tampa Bay, but near Tampa itself. Look at this. You've got potential for significant surge as well. So it's one thing to see this color-coded on a map. It's a whole other thing completely when we start talking about what that looks like in real life and what that means for those of you that are going to experience something like this. Let's start out by looking at this house and adding 1 to 3 feet of surge, which is already really destructive. Think about filling a moving box, a typical moving box size box with water. That box will now weigh as much as a smart car. Let's go even further up, because once you're past 2 feet to 3 feet of surge, most cars will float away. Now you've got water going through the first floor of your building. It's 6 feet. It's taller than me already. Remember, these numbers are for water above normally dry ground. Then it gets even more catastrophic. You go towards 9 feet, entire homes can be washed away, because it's not just a slow rise of this surge like a bathtub. This is the ocean. We've got wave action on top of that, battering down any structures that are in the path of this increased water. And finally, in this case, we may have more than 9 feet of surge. That's now getting towards second-story buildings, a deadly and destructive component.
Deadly and destructive. Yeah, surge kills more people in a hurricane than just about anything else. Water is what you want to stay away from. Let's talk about some of the water elements that we're seeing already right now and what we're going to see. I tell you what, the Florida Keys, Chip Casper there and his crew there at the National Weather Service office are going to see those battering waves of 25 to 30 feet and more here if they haven't seen that already. And of course, surge, as he mentioned in our interview just a little while ago, Chip told us that that is going to be a major element for the Florida Keys, the surge. We have surge warnings, storm surge warnings from the Keys all the way up through Miami, and really from Jupiter up to Jacksonville, and even beyond that, up into Charleston. We're going to see surge problems there along the South Carolina coast. And of course, storm surge is going to be a big problem here around the southwestern coast, Naples southward, and even on up toward Tampa. We could see those surge values very high for those areas. Here's what the forecast is. Notice that the waves are really going to be on the increase here around South Florida. Miami, the beaches there are going to see those battering waves, and really on both sides the waves are going to kick up, but they're going to have probably more influence on the east side, the Atlantic Ocean side, than on the west side. It's going to be surge that's the big problem here around the southwestern corner, whereas waves will be the bigger problem there around the east coast of Florida. There's the surge forecast, and it's 5 to 10 feet from the Keys on up to areas just south of Miami, 3 to 5 foot storm surge around Miami itself, but that's that 10 to 15 foot storm surge that's going to be a big problem there around the southwestern coast. Then around Tampa, 5 to 8 feet, and then northward there, 4 to 6 feet is what we can expect. And that's what we're going to expect to see along the Georgia coastline up towards South Carolina as well. And obviously people have been moved away from the coastline there as well, Ray. Widespread impacts from Florida northward.
Yeah, absolutely. And they're starting to feel a lot of those impacts during the day on Saturday. And it is going to be continuing as Hurricane Irma's outer bands are starting to move across parts of South Florida. David Culver with our affiliate WRC reports on the impact of the strong winds that they're already having on Hollywood Beach, Florida.
Tonight, we are feeling the strongest effects from Hurricane Irma here on the eastern part of South Florida. We are along Hollywood Beach. And as of right now, the one good thing is that this beach still has power, but the winds gusting upwards of 45, 50 miles an hour. And this is only going to intensify as we go through the night and into tomorrow. In fact, the worst of this is not expected until noon Sunday. I can tell you most of the folks here are heeding the warnings. They are staying off the roads. In fact, as we were doing a little bit of driving farther inland, we noticed the only vehicles on the road were police vehicles. Now, let me give you an idea of some of the strength of the wind that we're seeing right now. You can see as we look up at some of the palm trees, they are pretty much just all pointing in that westward direction. We're feeling the winds pushing very, very strongly towards the west. As far as the curfew here, it's been in effect since 4 o'clock, and people seeming to oblige by it, staying off the road, staying off the beach, of course, and trying to keep sheltered in place until Irma passes. That's the latest here from Broward County. I'm David Culver. We'll send it back to you.
Well, you see the gusty winds there, and that's the kind of wind that has already lashed parts of Florida. We're seeing more than 300,000 customers losing power overnight. And we saw this late Saturday night. Well, look at this. Watch what happens as the wind picks up and then the lights go out. This is in Key West. Yeah, this is on Duval Street. Florida Power and Light estimates more than half the state's customers could lose power. And we're going to see widespread power outages from Florida all the way up into Georgia and into South Carolina from Hurricane Irma.